Hello YouTube, Marauders here, and this is the Xbox Elite controller. So this is the basically the premium Xbox One controller by Microsoft, and of course since we call it the premium controller, this basically means this is the more expensive version of your typical Xbox One controller. But of course, since it carries the price tag, is it worth the price tag? Let's take a look. So on first feel, when you first pick up the Elite controller, you can already feel that it feels slightly heavier than the normal controller, and of course part of the reason is because the sticks assemblies and there are a few more items in here that are basically just metal. So the sticks are metal, the pad here is metal, and of course there's the extra buttons at the bottom. Let's get down to it one by one. So first of all is that, if you notice, the face buttons are colored and they are a bit hard to see. Now some of you might feel that, hey, not being able to see the buttons means it's harder for me to figure out which is the ABXY buttons. But seriously, if you're picking up an Elite controller, why would you need to remember? You still don't know which button is which? Nah, that's not really a complaint. Okay, then there's an extra switch here in the front because you can customize remap the buttons and customize some of the trigger sensitivities in the Xbox accessories app. And this switch will allow you to toggle between the two onboard profiles, which you can store on the controller themselves. Now let's look at one of the first different features about the Elite controller, and that's the fact that, as I mentioned just now, the sticks are metal, and if you look at the ring, the ring assembly of the joystick well, there's also there's like a metal ring on it. This means that the movement, your rotation movement, is very smooth. Because normally if you had a normal controller, so it's basically just plastic rubbing on plastic, and you can see that you will eventually foul off a little bit of plastic material on it. Okay, and it feels a bit rough. So the fact that there's a metal ring and a smooth metal stick as well, it means that your turning and movements are very well, you can feel the difference. It feels much more smoother than a normal controller. And the interesting thing that I note is that if you flick it like this, you can actually feel the weight shake the joystick a bit in your hands. It's an interesting feeling. Well, it feels smoother. I can't say I don't think it will actually do you any better when you're playing a game. And if we look here, so we have the triggers and the bumpers. Now one thing, if you notice, is that there's no Kinect identifier window anymore. So for the original controller, there's a identifier thing here, which it has an IR signal for the Kinect to identify which player is holding which controller. But considering the fact that the Kinect isn't bundled with the console anymore, I guess that's why they decided to remove it. Now let's look at the triggers. The triggers have one special ability, which is the fact that there's a little switch here. So when the switch is at the normal default point, you can pull the trigger down fully down just like any normal controller. But if you switch the switch down here, you can see that the pull distance, it has decreased. It's about almost half of it. So you get more of a hair trigger. Now the advantage of this is that in games, if you're playing a game where you just need to press the trigger as fast as you can by pressing and releasing it, having a short travel distance obviously gives you some minor advantage. So that's nice. I mean, like in Halo or something, you could probably try and fire off the pistol a bit faster than if you had a longer pull. Of course, whether that actually gives you a competitive advantage, that's still has to be determined. Now, if you look at the bottom here, you also notice a few other things, that there are actually four extra buttons here. So these are basically extra buttons that you can remap in the Xbox One accessories app. So you can map these onto any button on the controller. So you can map the triggers to it, the bumpers, the D-pad directions, the face buttons, anything at all. And of course, for me, the main thing here is that when I'm playing Halo, I'll map one of this to jump, I map one of this to melee, one of this to switching my grenade types, and one to my crouch. So that means that when I'm playing Halo, I don't need to remove my hand to press the jump. So it's like you're doing a bumper jumper. I can just toggle the jump using the bottom of my hands. So it's very convenient. I like that function a lot. It allows me to jump and aim in the air much easier. And the other thing is that the legs of the controller is a sort of like a rubber like grip material, so it's less slidey, it's not as smooth, so you can hang on to it better. And along with the Xbox Elite controller, they give you this nice little case that comes with it, because for the Elite controller, you can choose to customize it. For example, they got some extra joystick heads. So you can see that normally our joystick heads are sunken, but if you prefer the PlayStation ones where it's just a dome, you can just replace it. And of course, the cool thing is that in order to replace it, you don't need any screwdrivers or any tools, you just pop it off, because it's held in place by magnets. You don't have to worry about this thing coming off when you're actually playing, because there's actually a little groove in there. So any sort of lateral movement on the stick won't loosen it. You must have to vertically lift it up. The stick is pretty well designed for the magnets. You don't have to worry about it dropping off when you're playing, if that's your worry. So for the sticks, the package that comes with the Elite controller, you have these dome ones, which is slightly higher than your normal stick height, and you also have these extra high ones. You can see this is the normal one, and this is the extra high one. I don't know why you want to do that, but my hands are too small to feel the advantage of it. Maybe if your hands are bigger, you can feel that this actually suits you better. But I tried using one of those thumb grips last time, and having a stick this high just made my thumb feel sore, so I don't actually like this. And of course, I don't actually like the dome as well. The sunken wells feel much better. And then of course, if you have seen this, we have the D-pad. So the Elite comes with this circular thing, this slide thing. According to what Microsoft says, is that this will allow you to play fighting games better, I guess, since it's easier to turn it. Okay. But of course, if you don't want this and you want to use the normal D-pad, just pop it off. Again, it's held in by magnets, and chunk it in. Very, very good design. Now, if you feel that you don't need these extra pedals, then why did you buy the Elite controller in the first place? But anyway, if you feel that you don't like any of these, again, you can see there's already a slot here in the pack, so we can just lift it up. And then all of them can just be seated in. You just put them nice and snug into the bag. So this carry case is really great, everything just fits in perfectly. And you have a little net here for the cable. And yes, the controller also comes with a USB cable as well. Of course, even if you have taken out the bottom pedals, if you really pinch it, you can actually still feel the buttons. You can still press it if you want to. And the controller itself is still running using AA batteries. And of course, I suppose you can just plug in a play and charge kit if you want to use the direct rechargeable controller. And the Elite controller comes with a headset jack, so you don't need to use the audio input plug for the Xbox controller, but of course you can still plug it in if you want to. And let's put it in. So everything should just fit nice and snug inside this case, so you can carry it around, or you can just keep it away from your little kids. After all, remember that the sticks can be easily removed by just pulling it out. So you have small children around, you don't want to just pull it out and accidentally swallow it or something. But okay, that's the general review of the Elite controller. Let's start talking about the problems and nitpicks that I'm having with it. The first is, if I shake this a bit, let's open it up. Hope, where did the control pad go? It's here. Now, the problem with this, as nice as this region for holding everything is, for some reason it can't hold the disc control pad in place. If I use a D-pad, there, it doesn't fall out. It's still stuck firmly in place. For some reason, the disc is just a bit looser. Probably because the groove here, the groove doesn't fit the size. I wonder why that's the case. I mean, that the case is very well designed. They could have did a few things to fix this. They could have magnetized the alcove. They could have made the size fit better. But for some reason, they decided to keep it loose and let it fall out. That's very strange indeed. And I have a few other nitpicks about this Elite controller. So the first thing here is that the surface of the controller, while it's not exactly glossy, it's some sort of matte-like thing, but whatever material that Microsoft chose to use, it shows off sweat marks very easily. So you can see how it reflects in the light. So it shows off sweat stains very easily. I wonder why did they choose to do that. I mean, they could have just used some sort of silk screen like this on it and it would just be fine. You could just use this black here that doesn't show off the sweat that much, but this matte material just likes to catch hold of the oils and everything on the sweat. So yeah, it doesn't look very good after a while. And the other thing that you need to be aware of when using the Elite controller is that if you have these bottom pedals in, if you rest, one of the obvious things you would do when you're playing is that maybe you want to eat or something, and you put the controller on your leg. you put the controller on your leg. Now, the moment you put the controller on your leg, you are definitely going to activate one of these, one or maybe all of the pedals at the bottom. And well, obviously, if imagine you're looking at a wall and you mapped one of the pedals to the grenade, to the grenade triggers, and you decided to put it down on your leg, and well, that's it. You just committed suicide. So it takes some getting used to, because you need to remember that when you pick up the controller, normally you can just pick up any controller just like that, but you have to be a bit more careful with the Elite, because when you pick it up, you might actually hit the pedals and you activate a button, which is not something you might want to do. But really, that's basically some of the main nitpicks with it. Other than that, I am pretty satisfied with the Elite controller, because I really appreciate the additional pedals on so that I can just, well, jump and everything without taking my hand off the right stick. That's very good, very nice for me. Now, do you need to get the Elite controller? Well, no. If you need to ask yourself, do I need to get the controller, it means either you don't play you don't play games hardcore enough that you feel that, hey, maybe being able to keep everything at my fingertips is necessary for me to play games at a higher level or something. If you need to ask yourself that, you probably don't need the Elite controller, because it's basically just your normal controller is just as good as the Elite controller, other than some nice interesting things, extra features which the Elite controller has. The hairline triggers seem to be the only real competitive advantage that I would say the Elite controller gives, because our muscle memory, we are trained to just pull the trigger down and let go when we feel resistance. So being able to limit the trigger distance would allow us, in situations where we need to press the trigger as fast as we can, it would definitely give us some advantage. But other than that, if you think just buying an Elite controller can make you better at games, well, obviously that's not the case. But if you feel that the ability for having these extra shortcut keys for configuring the trigger distance, this is important and useful to you, then yeah, sure, the Elite, you can't go wrong with the Elite controller. And remember, sometimes it's not just a matter of, can I play, will this make me better at competitive games? Certain people might find it difficult to move their fingers through the face buttons fast enough. So with these pedals, they can actually press it, they can actually access the controls better. So yeah, that's probably useful for them. And did Razer release a Saber Tooth for the Xbox One? I'll have to check that. Since on the 360 we had the Razer Saber Tooth, had what allowed us to have these shortcut buttons as well, but since if the Razer hasn't released theirs yet, the Elite controller is the only way to have these kind of additional shortcut buttons. And the fact that it's very well integrated with the Xbox itself, yeah, it's definitely quite useful if you want to. But personally, if you really have to ask yourself, should I get an Elite controller? Is it gonna make me much better at Halo or Call of Duty or Battlefront? No, I'm pretty sure just getting a controller, a more expensive controller, doesn't make you any better at games. Okay, this is Marauders, and I will see you all in the next video.